In this piano tutorial, we will be learning how to play the song I Give Myself Away by William McDowell in the key of B flat major. And this song was requested through the comment section, so feel free to leave any comments down below with any song requests. And also for all of you who are asking me about the sounds or the software that I'm using, all of that information is found in the description below, okay? Now, for this song, I'm going to share my approach to it with a couple of substitutions and passing chords that we can use not only in this song but any other song with similar progressions, okay? So we start off on the 1 chord. I give myself away, right? Then it's the 7 chord. I give myself away, 6, 5, and then 4. Right, so what can we do to this progression to make it sound slightly different? All right, so first of all, let's focus in on the voicings of the chords that we are using. As usual, I like to play the chords in a way that they follow the melody of the song, right? So right before getting to the 1 chord, let's use a 5 chord as a passing chord right before that 1 chord. So for the 5 chord, we're going to use a sus chord, or F9 sus4. I give myself away. Then we land on that 1. And again, I'm just using an add 2 voicing right here. This C makes it an add 2. Right, and there's a couple of passing chords that we can use when playing in this case from the 1 to the 7, which is the next chord, right? So I give myself away. What I did was I used the 4 chord as a passing chord to go to the 7. So I did this. I give myself away. Right? So what I played was I played an E flat major 7 like this. And then I landed on the 7 chord. And this 7 chord is voiced as a 5/7. It's a very common voicing that I use, where the left hand, I feel like it has most of the emphasis for this chord, right? It plays a 7, the 5, and the 6, right? This is the voicing I use for the left hand, and the right hand is just playing a 1. Well, not a 1, a 2, a 5, and a 2, right? So I give myself away. I give myself away. Now, after the 7, we know that the next chord is a 6. And what I did here is use a 3 chord as a passing chord. And this 3 chord is a secondary dominant chord. And there are many videos and tutorials on that topic, on that subject of secondary dominance, and they basically serve as a passing chord to go to a next chord because they are basically the 5th of the destination chord, right? The 5th of the 6 is a D in this case, which is the 3. And the voicing that I used is this one right here, D7 flat 9. And an easier way of memorizing this chord is I am just playing D with the major 3rd and dominant 7th, and from here I jump from the dominant 7th 1 tritone up, right? A tritone is just 3 whole steps, 1, 2, 3, and from here I just form a diminished 7th, which is just separated by 3 half steps, right? So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, okay? So I give myself away. And something else that I forgot to mention about this voicing right here is that we are still following the melody, right? This is the melody note right here, and it's the top note in this chord, or the last note. I give myself away. So we're on the 6th chord, which I use as a G minor 11th. So you. And now this 5 chord, for some reason this tends to sound good to me, where I basically make it a major 9 13th voicing, right? So I make it this sound. This sounds a little bit farther away than the original chord, which is just a regular 5. But I like adding this major 7th and also the major 9th. And to spice it up even more, this major 6 or 13th, okay? So this is the voicing for the 5. And then for the 4, I'm following the melody again. So I play, can use me, right? It's almost as if we were playing a 5 over 4 to resolve it to a 4 over 4, right? So something like this, but the voicings I'm using are, can use me, all right? So once again, all together, I give myself away. I give myself away. And here we can use a very common gospel movement where we go from the 6 to the 7 to the back to the 1, and that's a way that we can repeat this same verse in the song, right? So what I did here was play, right? Very easy, 6 or a 4 over 6, this voicing, then to the 7, and then we're back to the 1. Now here you may have noticed how I switched up that 3 passing chord that we used before, right? We were here before the 6. We used this 3 as a passing chord to go to the 6. In this case, I used this movement, which is also based on the 3. It's actually the same the same extensions, a dominant 7 flat 9, but in this case I'm doing this movement. I'm using a sus chord, making it a flat 9 chord, and then I land on the 6. Alright, so let's move on to that first verse. Here I am. Again, we're using that 6-7-1 progression to go to the 1. Here I stand. And I'm just playing a 1. Here I stand, Lord, my life. And here, the next chord would be a 2 chord, right? So we went from the 1, here I stand, Lord, my life. That would be the regular movement from the 7 to the 1 to the 2. Right? But in this case, I substituted that 1 for a 6 chord, right? So I did, Lord, my life. So we either have this option, right? Lord, my, which is just a G major over B, to go to the 2 chord, a C minor 7, or we can play, Lord, my life, right? A slightly different voicing for the same chords. Play a 7 to a 6, and this 6 is just an altered chord, a G7 sharp 5, and then for the 2 we use this voicing, right? A C minor 11th voicing. It's slightly different than the melody, but it tends to work out if you have someone singing the song. Lord, my life is in your hands. And the rest of that verse is just 3, 4, and then 5. And then we're back to that 6, 7, 1 progression to go back to the 1. Lord, I'm longing. And here I'm just doing a slight variation, right? I'm using the 6 as a passing chord to go to the 7, very similar to what we did in the beginning, right? We used the 4 as a passing chord to go to the 7, but in this case, the 4, it's being substituted by a 4/6, right? Right, so we're on the 7. And here I used a very similar movement. We're still using the 6 as a passing chord before the 2, but I just did this movement right here. I think it's called the sharp 5. We basically go from this chord right here. We use the F sharp and bring it up to that G. And then we're up to that 2 or minor 2 chord. And then we're back to the chorus. Self-away. I give myself away so you can use me. Give myself away. Again, there's also different approaches to that same progression that we did, to the 6-7-1 progression, right? We can just make it a 2-5-1, right? I give myself away, right? So let's move on to the next part of the song, the bridge where it says my life is not my own. It's basically the same progression, right? My life is not my own, to you I belong. I give myself to you, right? It's that same progression as in the beginning, but very, very subtle. I changed that 3, right? Before we had this 3, but in this case I used it. It's still an altered chord, but I made it a sharp 9 sharp 5 altered chord. Okay, so to you I belong. I give myself to you. Life is not my own. Now, for this progression, we can get a little bit creative and change it up a bit, right? So, life is not my own. We can go to a minor 5. To you I belong. And then go to the 4. I give myself. And then a 3. I give myself to you. And then a 2, right? And the reason why this works is because we are still making these chords follow the melody of the song, right? Right, so that's why that progression, we can get creative with it as long as we maintain the melody of the song. Now what I'm going to do is play the whole song through without any interruptions, slightly improvised. That way you get a better understanding, better idea of how it sounds altogether. I may include some different movements, but hopefully you're able to learn something else from this part of the video.